Now I would like to introduce two of our students who have benefited from that generous support. Our first student speaker is Jenna Bandy. Jenna is in her senior year majoring in human communications and would like to pursue a career as a broadcaster and sports reporter. Today, Jenna joins us as a representative of our women's basketball team and would like to say a few words in honor of our donor, Bob Johnson, who is an avid supporter of our university and athletics in particular. Jenna.
Thank you. Got my own page here. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jenna Bandy. I'm a fifth-year senior on the CSUMB women's basketball team. I've been a student athlete here for 5 years, and I've had the privilege to have the tremendous support year after year from our guy, Bob Johnson. For starters, on behalf of the women's basketball program, we want to thank Bob for all that he has done for us. We greatly appreciate your contributions to our team and the entire university. One of the many ways that Bob supports us is by cheering us on along the sidelines at all of our basketball games. It's so meaningful to have someone with his Otter pride and spirit in the stands every home game. Win or lose, he's always there to give us high fives and hugs. Bob has also taken the time to get to know us on a personal level, extending his hand to having us over for team dinners. It's been a big risk to take, considering we don't stop talking and can eat more than most football teams. Us college kids are balling on a budget, so being treated with a home-cooked meal is the best gift we can receive. Thank you, Bob, for putting up with all of us and for the great food. On top of all that, Bob spoils us every year by satisfying our guilty pleasure with dozens of boxes of Girl Scout cookies. He knows those Samoas and those Thin Mints are an athlete's kryptonite. Good thing we've been conditioning and running a lot in preseason to make room for Girl Scout cookie season. Not only is Bob generous with his time, but his financial contributions to our scholarship fund have allowed more girls opportunities to be on the team. I'm forever grateful for his contributions to our program, the athletic department, and the entire CSUMB community. With his generous donations, Bob has not only positively influenced my college experience, but many others as well. Again, thank you, Bob, for all that you do.
Now it is time to welcome our new members into the Lifetime Giving Society. I want to acknowledge all of our past recipients who are here tonight and thank you for your ongoing support and friendship. As we recognize our new members being inducted into the society, you should notice their names have been added to the donor wall behind me. With gratitude for your generosity, I invite each of you to receive your medals recognizing your contributions. So the next level up is Valley Society. Valley Society recognizes those donors who have accumulated lifetime gifts of over $500,000. In this same category, we find Bob Johnson. Bob is a gracious and generous supporter of Cal State Monterey Bay and the Monterey County community through his monetary and voluntary contributions. Born in the Salinas Valley, Bob developed a passion for farming and has made significant contributions to the agricultural industry. His innovations have helped transform many acres of dry land into irrigated vegetable farms. When he and his late wife, Sue Johnson, moved to the peninsula from their farm in Cholar, he began his philanthropic contributions to CSUMB with an endowed scholarship in honor of his mother. The Jane Perr Johnson Scholarship is awarded on a priority basis to students who have attended Cholar Elementary School, Gonzales High School, or Hartner College in Salinas. Jane Perr Johnson attended Cholar School, as did Bob, his siblings, and their children. Many Cholar students now come from immigrant farm worker families, and Bob speaks at every graduating class at Cholar Elementary. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. And encourages them to reach for the opportunities made possible by a college degree. Bob has also made a gift to the CSUMB Tanamura and Antle Family Memorial Library in honor of Sue, where a study area is named in her honor. An avid Otter athletics supporter, as you've heard, he recently made a significant gift for student-athlete scholarships. Bob is in the stands at nearly every game at the Kelp Bed. These are among the most notable contributions to CSUMB, but there have been many other gifts in support of student success. Bob's other philanthropic interests have included major donations to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, where he was a loyal docent, and donated the developed rights of his farm to the Monterey County Land Trust. His commitment to his community is also shown through his service as a director in the Monterey County Farm Bureau, director of the California Farm Bureau, chairman of the American Vegetable Farm Bureau, and secretary for the CSUMB Foundation Board of Directors. In 1978, the California Women for Agriculture honored him as Monterey County's outstanding agriculturist for his significant contributions. He also created what has become the Bob Johnson Annual Ag Tour through Monterey County agricultural education, designed to educate people throughout the county about our #1 industry. So Bob, please come up and accept this award.
Wow. How did I end up here? Before I go into my general remarks, most of you in the room know that I've been legally blind for 4 years, and I want to thank all the people in the room that have willingly transported me from point A to point B so many times and helped me to lead pretty much of a normal life. And I won't try to name names because I'm sure to miss somebody, but there are a lot of people in this room that have given me rides, and it certainly improved the quality of my life. And as far as answering the question of how I got here, I blame my mother. And President Ochoa already told you a little bit about that, but I want to tell you that my mother was born 1906 in a small village in the High Pyrenees of southwest France. Her parents left her at an orphanage and immigrated to this country at age 2. And she didn't like to talk about it that much, but as I got older, I'd learned more and more about it. And I kind of think the money that they were supposed to be paying the orphanage money to support her, and I think the money stopped coming, and she kind of became an indentured servant. She had to work for her keep. And so I've never known anybody that had such a difficult childhood. And finally, her parents finally sent money to bring her back in 1919 when she was 12 years old. And she had an older brother 2 years older than her that were both left there. And the two of them traveled across the Atlantic, across the United States. And you can imagine letting a 12 and 14-year-old do that nowadays, all the things that can go wrong. But somehow she finally arrived here in Monterey County, and she didn't speak one word of English, and she did try to go to Chular School. I think she went 2 or 3 years, and at age 16 she went to work to support herself. And 3 years later she married my father. But there were no opportunities for uneducated women in those days, or even for educated ones, for that matter. But anyway, she knew that her lot in life was to be a homemaker and a mother, and so she was determined to be the best she could possibly be. And the one thing she did, she never spoke French in the house. I didn't even know she spoke French until I got old enough to find that out. She somehow taught herself to speak English without an accent and grammatically correct, because she would correct my grammar as I grew up if I wasn't correct. And how she did this, I don't know. She, as I said, she never liked to talk about it. So anyway, when I became, well, she was determined all of her children would not only finish school and high school, but all go to college. She had 3 sons, and we all finished college. So then when this university started up here, I thought, I wanted to do something to honor my mother, and I decided that the best thing The Chular school that I attended, my daughters attended, is almost 100% immigrants now, immigrant children. Some born in Mexico, some born here. So they are people that more or less similar to my mother that may not believe that they could go to college. So I set up a scholarship in her name, which President Ochoa spoke of, for any children that went through that school, and we've had quite a few that have come through, and it is their first family member to go to college, and my mother would be very pleased to know that this is happening. And I said I wouldn't mention any names, but I want to mention Steve Weldon, who's no longer here, and Debbie Howitt, who replaced him. Debbie went above and beyond the call of duty, because when we created the scholarship, the school down there didn't do anything about it. They didn't tell the kids about it. And Debbie took the time to take me down there and see why they didn't know about it, and there was some kind of communication problem that it took a while, but I think I finally got it solved, Debbie. So when I was being interviewed a couple of weeks ago, the interviewer asked me, or pointed out, I said, it seems like a lot of your philanthropy seems to lean towards women's causes, and she knew I had 3 daughters, said, it's because you have 3 daughters, and I said, well, yes and no. I said, it's really more on account of my mother, but my 3 daughters are examples of what my mother might have been had she been born in the middle of the 20th century rather than the early part of it, because they all went to college. The oldest girl graduated with a double major in biological or ecological and biological science, and there were no jobs in there, so she got a degree in computer science. And because jobs exceeded supply, demand exceeded supply, they didn't care if she was a girl. So her first job, she was only 21 years old, she was hired by Arco Oil Company, and her job was to coordinate the building of an oil refinery on the North Slope of Alaska. And they contracted Bechtel Engineering to do it, and she had her own office in the Bechtel building in San Francisco. We went up and visited her, and it just blew my mind what she was doing. And I said, you're responsible for all this? She said, yeah. She said, the refinery is going to be 6 acres. They're building it in Korea, and they're going to barge it through the Bering Strait up to the North Slope and then reassemble it up there. And she says, I'm responsible to write a program so all the pieces arrive at the right places at the right time. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a lot of responsibility. And then after that project was done, she went to work for Wells Fargo, and she wrote most of the credit card program for Wells Fargo Bank. This was way back in the 70s. And then my second daughter, and I have Mary Kay Crockett somewhere here to thank for poking a big hole in the glass ceiling. My second daughter chose the finance industry. She started out as an engineer, and she worked on some of the NASA projects, and then went back to business school, attended Wharton back in Pennsylvania, got an MBA, and she's now a certified financial advisor. And because of her engineering background, she's one of the foremost authorities in the country on tech stocks. And she appears on Bloomberg television, and she's quoted in the Wall Street Journal quite frequently. So my mother would be very proud of that. And then my third daughter took a more conventional route. She became sales and catering manager of Holiday Inn in Fresno. And most of you know Fresno's the southern gateway to Yosemite Valley, so she entertained people, put on affairs for people from all over the world, did banquets, weddings, all kinds of functions. And to her credit, she had boy-girl twins, and she decided that, well, she hired some nannies to take care of the twins till they started kindergarten. And once they started kindergarten, she resigned her job at Holiday Inn and took a job which she still has, managing the cafeterias in the school district where her children work. So her time schedule and their schedule would pretty much coincide. And And she's going to retire in that job. All my daughters are getting close to retirement age, which just makes me feel old when they talk about the retirement plans. And the other thing I want to mention is I did work at the aquarium. I lost my wife 7 years ago. We'd been married almost 52 years, and my nearest daughter lives over 100 miles from here, so I don't have any other immediate family here. I kind of felt lonesome, and I did take a job as a docent at the aquarium, made a lot of new friends there, and the university really, then President Diane Harrison, who had met my wife and was aware of my condition, just went out of her way to make sure that I was kept busy and didn't feel sorry for myself and all that kind of thing. And the university has just been wonderful for me and to me and everything. And I just like to mention that I heard somewhere a long time ago that the famous playwright George Bernard Shaw is supposed to have said at one time that youth is such a wonderful thing, it's a shame to waste it on children. And I had a couple of thoughts about that. Number one, he must have been an old grump. Number two, he must have wasted his youth and didn't know what to do about it. And number three, he didn't have the good sense to connect to that youth and draw a little energy from it, which is what I did. And I became a fan of the Lady Otters basketball team, and that was is still lots and lots of fun. And I just got closer and closer to the team, and then because I couldn't drive, I had to have drivers to drive me. I was treated at Stanford and UCSF for my eye problems. And when you're in a car that long with somebody, either you fire them or you get to be very good friends. And so I have two drivers, and a lot of you here know them. One of them is Tula Hubbard, and the other one is Harry Williams, who ended up doing most of my driving. And I can remember Harry. It was basketball season, and his boss sent him to pick me up, and he said, "Well, what are we going to do today, Bob?" And I said, "Well, we're going to go to this house over here, and we're going to pick up a whole load of Girl Scout cookies. And then what are we going to do?" "Well, we're going to take them out to the university and give them to the basketball coaches." And he's there shaking his head, and mostly it was, we're going to a doctor here, we're going to a doctor there. And this was I threw him a curve. He said, "Well, okay." He said, "But my boss said, whatever Bob tells you to do, just shut up and do it." So anyway, we got over here, and the girls, I think, were practicing that day, and we came in. And so we went in and we watched the practice. Well, he got hooked immediately. He said, "Can I come to some of the games with you?" I said, "I always need a ride, Harry." So he became one of their biggest fans. And that's the other thing. My mother she taught me three things to lead my life by, and that has a lot to do with me ending up here now. One of the first things I can remember her saying to me, I must have been 4 or 5 years old, trying to learn how to tie my shoelaces. And I was all thumbs, no dexterity, and I finally said, "I can't do this." And she said, "Don't you ever tell me you can't do something. Tell me you will learn how to do it. Maybe you can't do it today or tomorrow, but maybe next week, maybe next month. But don't ever say you can't do anything because you just convinced yourself you can't do it." And so I've kind of never forgotten that. And then the other thing she frequently reminded me of says, "Do something with your life, otherwise you're just taking up space, and there's already too many people doing that." And then the third thing she would tell me was, "Can't you act your age?" And I never got the hang of that because every time I figured out, my age had changed. So, and my daughters to this day say, "Dad, you're not acting your age," which I'm probably not, but they say it in a good way. They're glad that I'm not at this point.
Well, Paul, we thank you for your support. It's been a great friend of the university.
Barbara told me I could talk as long as I wanted. but I have a dinner engagement with 3 lovely young ladies who are here in place of my absent daughters, who none of them unfortunately could be here for this event. And I'm hoping there's some old grump at the restaurant, a 21st century George Bernard Shaw type, that I will be the envy of.
Well, thank you to all of our new and returning Giving Society members for believing in our university and joining us tonight. We're honored that you are a part of our community. I also want to recognize and thank the development team who have cultivated and stewarded our donors throughout the year. Their professional work has helped make this event possible today. This concludes our program, and please stay and enjoy the rest of the time with each other. Thanks.